Hello, my name is Frank Krebs. I'm the pastor at Saints Clare and Francis Ecumenical Catholic Community in St. Louis, Missouri, and the presiding bishop-elect of the Ecumenical Catholic Communion. And I'd like to share with you a reflection on Lent. Lent is a time of delay, we could say, a time of not yet. And what hasn't happened yet? What's the not yet part? What would it be if it did happen? It would be the resurrection. And not just the resurrection of Jesus once historically in time, but the resurrection inside of us that Paul says happens in each of us in our baptisms. That's the place where we are in complete union with God. We are operating as if divinity has taken over our entire personalities, and we're just riding, sort of surfing a grace wave, you could say. Well, that's one image of the Christian life, and we'll have weeks and weeks to focus on that image after Easter. But Lent, we're focusing on the part that's not yet. To describe what I mean by not yet, I'd like to appeal to an artist by the name of Marcel Duchamp. He referred to some of his works of art as delays. And what he meant by that was he didn't want to just look at the finished product, resurrection, if you will. He wanted to look at the time before that, the time before the resolution, the time before there was a happy ending, the time of process. So we could think, for instance, of the artist Michelangelo, who's creating the Pietà or who's creating the David, and he's chiseling the marble, right? He's wanting to stay faithful to the vision that's in his head and his heart. He is faithful to his skills as an artist, but at the same time, there is some level of doubt. He's aware that sometimes he doesn't do things perfectly, that at times things don't go well. And so he's in the middle of this sort of melange of despair and hope and a feeling of triumph that happens in cycles, one after another. So for instance, he could hit something and it's exactly what he wants and he's in ecstasy. Then he hits it again and he perceives of it as a mistake, and all of a sudden he's despairing that perhaps he's ruined this. Maybe he has ruined something and he has to put it aside. But maybe there's also the possibility that he looks at a mistake he made and said, oh, at first I was despairing that this was awful, but now I can see how this actually will help because I can move in this direction with this piece of art. And so in the middle of all that, there's a kind of a up and down feel. There's a kind of a feel, sometimes the things are clear, sometimes things are foggy. And underneath it all, there's a kind of faithfulness that Michelangelo exhibits to himself as an artist. He remains faithful to the call that he has as an artist. He hasn't seen the David yet. It's a kind of hope. He hasn't seen the Pietà. No one's telling him how marvelous the Pietà is yet because it hasn't emerged. So he's in that not yet stage. It's important for us to focus on this. Why? Because this is kind of what most of life is like for us, right? Where we don't know how it's all going to turn out. There are periods of doubt. There are periods when we make mistakes and we wonder, how are we going to recover from this? There are times when life just appears to be a conundrum. And if we're faithful to the call that we have, what that means is we keep coming back to center and remembering what it is that we're called to do in the midst of all that sort of diffuse awareness of so many possibilities where nothing quite seems certain. Lent is that period of life when we are growing. There's a purpose to Lent. It's almost as if it's a purposeful lack of clarity or ambiguity in our lives. Why? Because it grows the only thing that will sustain us at the time of that, and that is our faith, our ability to trust. It's as if this God of Easter, who is in complete union with us, is asking of us a different kind of union now during Lent, where it's kind of like, Frank, we're going to be together, but during this time of Lent, it's a time of growing. I'm going to be on the journey with you, but it's not going to feel like Easter. It's going to feel like growing. It's going to feel like strengthening the faith muscle, if you will. No pain, no gain. So that's what's going to get strengthened during Lent. So Lent is a period of not yet, but it's a very purposeful period, because precisely it grows our ability to remain faithful when we can't quite yet see how it's all going to turn out. It's a beautiful period. My name is Frank Krebs. I'm the pastor at Saints Clare and Francis Ecumenical Catholic Community in St. Louis, Missouri, and the presiding bishop-elect of the Ecumenical Catholic Communion. Thank you.